I've spent my entire adult life working in the areas of health, wellness, and safety. I've had the fascinating experience of working in crazy industrial environments, places like hospitals, maximum security jails. I've even been in little tiny fishing boats that were completely immersed in huge swells of water. I've been deep underground in mines, all kinds of construction sites. I've even been in massive commercial kitchens. Basically, I've been in hundreds of different industrial settings. Most mature businesses in the modern economy, anybody who's been around for any length of time, they've got a good written program in place already. What they don't necessarily have is a culture that supports excellence in their safety program, and that's what we're all about. My philosophy when it comes to safety training is all about changing the way people look at their work. We're in the business of winning people's hearts and minds, not just compliance with different parts of a program, but instead get people to completely buy into why they're doing the work that they're doing, and then the safety comes readily from there.
We've got to change the conversation. We said we want a goal of 75% of the time that you're having a conversation with somebody, that conversation needs to be about safety, about how to keep these men, and they were mostly men, very few women in this workforce, how do we keep these men coming home to their families at the end of every day? That's got to be part of what you're talking about at all times. And here's what happened. Over the next number of weeks, that ratio went up and up and up. And we coached them a little bit about how to make these conversations happen. It wasn't that hard. You could still talk about productivity, but you had to say, we're going to move those trees from over here to over there. How are you guys going to get that to be done safely? Same conversation about productivity, but all we did is we added an element that said, how do we do it safely? And these numbers showed that the supervisors were getting it. And as the weeks went by, look at it. 90% at the highest point of the conversations included some discussion about safety, and yet they were still running the business as effectively as they ever had. In fact, we'll come back to that point. Now, here's what was happening at the same time. These folks who were hired by us to monitor what the supervisors were saying were also, unbeknownst to the supervisors, looking for unsafe behaviors in those workplaces. So they were simply taught to look for some of the most basic safety violations in the forestry industry. And when the surveys first started, they'd see that about 11 unsafe violations could be seen at any workplace at any given time. And then as the weeks went by, the talk about safety went up and up and up, but there really wasn't a whole lot of change in behavior. There was something going on here. The workforce was waiting to see if there was something real about this. Is this conversation that's going up about safety, 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 is it really meaningful? And until they started to believe it, they didn't change their behaviors. And then this happened. Can you see how quickly this turned around? How impactful this was? Could you imagine in your own workplaces if you could have a 90% reduction in unsafe behaviors simply by changing the conversation, changing what's going on in people's hearts and minds about the work? They did the processes, the job safety procedures, very much like they had done before. But now they felt differently about the work. They believed that the company cared that they did it safely. And this was new, and it resulted in changes of that magnitude.